Apologize. Hey guys, welcome to the Real Man Podcast. All right, I am back with another edition with my partner in crime, Mr. Rodney Ramsey. Coach Ramsey, how are you today, my man?
Blessed by the best, Coach. How are you today? Thank you for asking.
I am awesome, my man. Cannot complain. Every day I'm alive is a blessing and a gift, so I'm excited. Hey, I want to get right into it. So the big thing that we saw in the news, especially when it comes to men, all right, is this push down in, I think it's Louisiana. One of the high schools down there, I think, had 23 arrests over a 3-day period. So a bunch of fathers got together and decided to create this group called Dads on Duty. Mm-hmm. And the whole basis is that they take shifts to walk around the school, to interact with the kids, to help mentor them in some respect, but also keep the other students safe and all that kind of stuff. And, I talk about this many, many times. I think it's a great thing, and I really do. That men have stepped up in that respect to make sure that kids are safe. But I don't think we're getting to the whole issue that at hand. And you and I have spoken about this in the past. I think too many times in our society, we put Band-Aids on things. We don't ever fix the problem, and then we never get back to fixing the problem. So eventually that Band-Aid, like anything, wears off, rips off, falls off, and then we're back left trying to clean that up, but then also clean up other things that have occurred because we never fixed the main problem. And I think that's where we're at in this whole situation. Why it's a great thing. Why are kids getting arrested? Why are 23 kids over the 3-day period getting arrested? And I think that's what nobody wants to answer. Nobody's really talking about that part of it. And you're not just seeing it there, you're seeing it everywhere. Even in our hometown here, Rodney, you hear these school fights and school this and school that. What is going on with society? And I wanted to get your perspective on it. I could talk about my perspective, but I wanted to get your perspective of what do you think is going on that is causing these issues? I mean, we've always had people that fought. I mean, this is throughout the beginning of time, Cain and Abel, we can go all the way back to there. But why is it so, so much more prevalent now? Maybe because of social media and things, but what's the reasoning behind why kids are doing these kind of things that they're doing?
For me, I look at the whole thing and I take myself outside of the problem, because you got to look at it and you got to be able to identify what that problem is. In the inner cities, in the schools, you got to really dissect the problem and how we can get to that next level. And you look at it and you say, where's all the negativity coming from? Because that's what the energy is displaying is negative. So again, you got, middle school, high school kids that sit on social media all day long. They listen to rap that is not of purpose all day long. They play video games all day long. So when you play and watch and listen to negative stuff on a daily basis, if one person is listening to these things, doing these things, and then they surround themselves with 5 other people that do the same exact thing that they do, it only creates a cycle that goes around in circles. And you look at that and it's like, all right, these young men, young girls that's going through these things, it's like they have no sense of direction from the time they get into a school setting to the time they get out. If they're comfortable with doing it in school, what makes you think they're not comfortable doing it out on the street and taking that somewhere else? But you just really gotta just focus on how can we get better individually and just help those students that are in need. So for the fathers that's coming together to give back somewhere, whether it just be a conversation and putting an arm around somebody, that can go a long way. So I see the things that the men and the fathers are doing. I applaud them. I think we need more men like that to step up. Granted, it doesn't have to be in a school setting, but just to step up to say, you know what, we as parents have to hold ourselves responsible because these are our children that's out here with this type of behavior. So it really displays, where are these habits and things coming from? If the parents aren't correcting it at home, then they're leaving it for other people to step in and influence their child's life. So I really just think that we have to continue to just cultivate and push that level of understanding and leadership when it comes to things like this.
And I think you're right. And I think that's a huge issue, that we have to get to the root cause.
Right.
And that's what nobody wants to do. Nobody wants to have the tough conversations. Listen, and I continue to say it in almost all my podcasts, men are failing. We're failing as men. And I'm not saying every single man out there, but men overall are failing. We're not being the leaders that we're meant to be, that God put us on this earth to be leaders. We need to lead. We also need to discipline. Unfortunately, because people get hurt over certain things like, oh, well, you shouldn't discipline like that. You shouldn't discipline like this. People have lost that sense of what discipline is. You know what I mean? Now, I'm not saying you go beat a child. That's wrong. In any case, any which situation, beating a child. But many of us probably grew up with the wooden spoon, probably got smacked in the hiney, stuff like that. All the stuff the Supreme Court says is okay, discipline-wise, people have now downplayed that and said, oh, you're being abusive. So parents now have taken a step back and are almost scared to discipline their kids. So they're looking for somebody else to almost do it. And then we also put our kids on a pedestal, thinking that they never do wrong. And that's a huge issue too, because we all mess up. You and I messed up many times in our life.
That's
right? That's okay. God knows that we're not perfect, but it's somebody there to fix that. And it should be the man, typically the father, to say, listen, this is wrong. You need to correct yourself, especially when it comes to other, younger men. You need to correct yourself. But we're not doing that. We're missing the boat. We're not stepping up to what we need to get done in our society to fix this problem. You said it correctly. You said these guys are doing a great thing. And I really do mean that. I think it's always great to have another influence outside of your father to help out. Such as, if I had males, I would want them to hang out with you, because they could probably tell you stuff that they might not be able to tell me. And you could be like, listen, this is the reason why your dad does this, and help understand that. There's nothing wrong with that. But the father still needs to be the main influence. And if the father's not in the picture, and I talk about this a lot, the father's not there, you're going to see, problems with the child, especially men. Men are craving to have a father figure help them out, whether they want to admit it or not. That father figure is a huge influence on them at very, very young age. And we need that, without that, there's a loss of direction. Moms do a phenomenal job. I'm not taking anything away from single moms. I think moms kick ass. You know what I mean? They do a phenomenal job, but it's not totally their job. You need that male influence, female and male, to do the job it's meant to be. And we're missing that. And you see it in our society. The decline of the family, the nuclear family, is falling apart dramatically. And we see what's going on. People don't want to admit it. A lot of people out there in the media don't want to admit it, that that's a problem. It's a huge problem.
Absolutely.
It goes all the way back to the beginning of time. You need that influence. You need a male influence in the correct way, not a bad way, to make sure that that child is disciplined. And I tell everybody this. I wasn't always so scared if I got in trouble at school. Don't get me wrong. I didn't want to get in trouble at school, but I was scared when they would call, and who they would call. They were going to call my father. And guess what was waiting for me at home? Oh, yeah. There was definitely something waiting for me at home. And that's okay. I feared that in the sense of, I'm going to get disciplined. And he never beat me. He never did any of that stuff. So I don't want anybody thinking, oh, Dave's dad did. No, he never did any of that stuff. But he laid down the law. This is what you're going to do. This is how you're going to do it. And you're going to respect. And I think that's another thing. We don't have respect. Would you not agree that respect at the young level, the way they sometimes talk to adults, is missing?
Oh man, Coach, I couldn't be more on board with you with that. Just looking at, again, the steps and the levels that the children in today's society have to take in order to get to a level of mental space, is going to take a lot of strength, and it's going to take, they say it takes a village to raise a child. And I really do believe that. Coming up, my father always taught me respect is a big thing, and respect is going to go with you a long way. But you have to have some type of discipline in order to hold on to your respect, and to continue to maneuver through life the way that you're maneuvering. And if you don't have respect, then respect for another man, then it's going to show in the way you carry yourself and your character. So I've always been big on respect, and I preach to my children that you have to have a level of respect, number one, for yourself, but for the people as close as your neighbors. Once you can master the small levels of respect, once they start coming in as you get older, you'll be able to, cherish it a lot more. And I feel like in today's society, everyone has to have a level of a title where they put themselves at such a high pedestal where they haven't mastered the small steps first. And there's like they're jumping levels wanting to get to a place that's here, but they're missing the core fundamentals and the core principles that's going to allow them to grow into a strong man. It's like, you go from childhood to teenage years, from teenage years to young adult years, but it's like you get from childhood to adulthood, and it's just like, where's that level of growth? You can look at a person and see where if they're growing in the ways that they need to grow. And I think just, with society today, it's just everybody's in a sporadic confusion mindset that's not really allowing them to have a clear mental picture of what's really at stake and what's in front of them.
No, and I think you really nailed it with the whole thing. We were clouded, and we muddied up the waters of a vision for what male should be. Do you know what I mean? We've really done a horrible job, and it comes from both sides. And why I say that is, listen, the feminist movement, when it came out in the 60s and 70s, I think had all the right. I think they were right. If a woman's just as good as a man when it comes to a certain job, they should be paid the same. And there's no reason why a woman can't raise up the ladder and become a CEO of a company. There's nothing. That's 100%. I think most people in this world would agree with that. Okay. The problem is when you try to raise women up by bringing men down is where the issue comes into play. You don't. Why do we got to bring somebody down to raise somebody up? That makes zero sense to me. Why don't we raise everybody up? But that's what we become. So then we marginalize men and say, well, men, you can't be this, you can't be that, because the females need their time now. And I just think that's wrong. Why can't we all raise up? Why are we raising this level to here to be great? The greatness and the gifts that God had given us. Why aren't we doing that? And well, we got to bring this group down to raise this one up. Right. It makes zero sense in how I see things. And I think that's one of the issues. So men have now been told, hey, listen, don't be like that because, you got to give women a chance. No, women have that chance, and let's continue to give them that chance. But let's also work on the men continue to be who they need to be. And I think we try to mix the two together, the two genders, male and female. We're different. The DNA is different. The makeup, the code is different. God made us different for a reason. I don't care what anybody says. He made us different. Okay. And when we mix them all together, you have problems. Now, I'm not saying a man can't cook, can't raise a child, can't do those things, but typically women overall are much better at that. Men are better at the hunter and gatherers type things. And we've known that throughout history. That's just how we are. And that's great. When you put the two together, how magical is it? How magical? It's phenomenal. It's when you try to be everything on top of each other, then everything gets muddied up. And it's a cycle that we're going through right now, a bad cycle, because a lot of these young men that you and I talk to really don't have a clear vision at all. Now, I'm not saying when you're a young kid, you should have that clear vision, but when you start to get to that 14, 15, 16-year-old, you got to start thinking differently. You got to start thinking on a level of, okay, maybe I don't know what I want to be in college or where I want to go. That's fine. But I should start having some visions of what I maybe want to do with my life. You know what I mean? Do I want to go into a trade? Do I want to go here? Do I want to try this? Do I want to do? But it's all based on how much respect I have. Who can I go to find advice from to gain that? So this whole thing, getting back to what we started on, the dads on duty, a great thing. But if we don't address the beginning issue, and you mentioned a little bit, the fundamentals, the basics of men taking their responsibilities and not being forced out or leaving, you know what I mean? When a child's born, well, I'm not going to be around. I don't want to take care of that child. Or the government saying, hey, we'll give you more money if you get rid of the man in your life. Okay. We'll give you more for, whatever supplemental stuff, income. That's wrong. We need those men in that life. And whether you're married or not, it's a totally separate story, but we need to see that man raising that child and showing that respect and showing them how to give respect, not just to other men, but to also the females,
Right.
not beating them, not doing those things, but how to do it correctly. Females deserve respect, and it has to be done a certain way. My wife still loves that I get the door for her when we go out. I grab the door. Now some females might think, well, I don't know why you do that. There's a reason. I respect my wife. I put her on a pedestal. She's my wife. She's she's my number one. You know what I mean? My kids are second.
Do that, coach.
Yeah, my kids are second. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Nothing against my kids. I love them. But without my wife, I don't have kids. So I can't. People put the kids first and they forget about their spouse. No, my spouse and my wife are number one. And that's why I treat her with respect. And then hopefully my kids see that, which I know you do a phenomenal job of. I've seen you many times with your wife. Phenomenal. So your kids are definitely learning. But then kids should see that and say, that's how I want to be treated. Females and males, I need to treat my girlfriend and my wife like that. If we do start doing those basic things and getting back to understanding the basics that you talked about, imagine what we could change. Then we don't need dads walking through the schools. If they want to walk through the schools, great, but we don't need it because the kids aren't acting like, a bunch of out of control, disrespectful group of people.
Right.
What's your take on that?
To be honest, I'm right. Again, everything you're hitting it right on the nail. It's now implementing the action, right? Because if you look at it, we want everybody to grow to a certain level of, all right, we got it understood. And you still got those gray areas where people don't truly understand what's going on. And if they don't understand what's going on, then they're going to continue to live life in a frenzy. Their mindset is going to be constantly in a frenzy to where they can't make proper decisions, proper choices without having a clear say, okay, this is something that I'm definitely going to do, or this is something that I'm definitely not going to do. They're kind of hung up on the fence to where it's like they don't know how to pick and choose. And they don't know how to pick and choose because, again, they have so much noise that is bombarding their brain to not have that, that clear mental space to say, you know what, I can make a clear decision without having my parents make the decision for me, right? But the parents they're not teaching the children how to make proper decisions because they're like a Band-Aid, quick to, put a Band-Aid on and allow it to just take its course, when in reality, keep the Band-Aid off and just work on it and allow, the steps to allow the body to reform in the proper way versus just throwing a Band-Aid over it and just allowing it to just be such. So, I mean, I'm there. It's just now tapping into it. We as human beings, we have to learn how to execute. And if there's no execution within the household, there's no execution on the gym. If kids can go to the gym and sit on their phone, what is that telling you about them as an athlete, as a human being? It's levels to life that we have to understand. But in order to understand it, we have to take ourselves back. We have to take a step backwards to see the full picture as a whole. I think we get so focused on, we get the tunnel vision of, all right, this is that, and that's what it's going to be. And it's okay to have tunnel vision, but you got to also know that the vision gets wider if you open your eyes. If you just keep it locked in, then it's just going to be locked in on things that you may think matters, but on the flip side to the coin, it really don't.
And I think you bring up some valuable lessons. Being able to control certain things, being able to understand, being able how to help people, and I think that's what you and I are trying to do with our whole message of the real man, is getting other men involved. Listen, you and I aren't perfect. You and I messed up probably more than most people out there. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
A lot of people know your story. I know your story. You know my story. We screwed up in life. We have, but we had to learn from it. Wasn't that we didn't have respect. It's that we went off kilter. We want to be there for people, young men, to help them grow the right way so they can avoid some of the mistakes that we made, avoid some of the hurt. I mean, you and I hurt. We hurt inside. You know what I mean? It sucks. And when you, as a man, it's sometimes hard to show because people don't want to see that. You know what I mean? But other men can understand that. So you can talk to them. Maybe you might not be able to show your wife or people outside, but you can show that. You know what I mean? To other men, because other men know, hey, listen, man, we know it's rough. Everybody, puts sometimes a facade up, and say that we shouldn't cry, we shouldn't do this, we shouldn't do that. Okay, that's fine in the sense of maybe for the rest of society, but deep down, there's got to be an outlet. There's got to be an outlet, somebody to talk to, somebody to listen, to even listen to you. Boom. And that's what you and I are trying to do with this whole message here, getting men to return back to what they need to do. Those God-fearing men, those leaders that God put us on the earth to be, lead. And I'm not just talking at a government level or national level, leading in our home, leading in the religious aspect, leading in the way of discipline, leading in the way of respect, leading and helping people understand that we're in this together. Mm-hmm. You said it takes a village. Agree. But here's the problem where we think of the village. We then rely on the village to do the work that we should do. And that's what I'm seeing now. Everybody says, oh, it takes a village. And I'm like, yes, but it doesn't mean the village is supposed to do the work that you're supposed to do. They're supposed to fill in the blanks where you can't fill because maybe you're not good at that level or whatever. Like my father, very educated man, smart as hell. You know what I mean? I'm not a good speller. I'm not a good writer. So guess what? I write the stuff and I have him correct it. He fills in where I'm weak. But then it comes to physical activity. Dad, get your rear end to the gym. You need to work your ass out so you can stay, as healthy as possible. Boom. That's where the village comes into play. But we each need to have the role of the basis there of the respect, continually doing it to our children, showing them respect and them showing us respect, and showing other people respect. Holding the door for an older couple who's trying to come in, holding the door for your wife or your girlfriend or your sister, those kind of things that men need to do and we need to get back to. It's not hard, but we lost that. We lost that somewhere along the line, that it's now a struggle to get it back where it should be an everyday occurrence. It used to be easy. I'd hold the door and it was no big deal. The person would say, thank you. Now you hold a door and nobody says anything. You're like, dude, just understandable. It's not a big deal, but just acknowledge that you notice that. And I think that can go a long, long way too. But the village has to be done by us first doing our job, not relying on the village to do everything for us. So I agree with you 100%. I think that's spot on.
Thanks, Coach. And again, you spot on as well. And just to touch back on the village raising, a child or human being, for that person, for that individual to see that the village is helping them become a better person. You still have people in that village that is the negative, that's going to still try to make an impact on your life. But if you see it as such and you're able to identify, okay, this individual or this group of people may not help me grow, but this group of people may help me grow. So now this is one big village, and here you are in the middle. So which side you're gonna run with? And most of us is running down the middle, and we still got, positive side, and you got negative side. You got positive, negative, and then those two is just like boom, 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 boom. But it's not allowing you to figure out which way you want to go. So we have to decide, and that's what I've learned through my journey. I had to decide what it is that I truly want. And for everyone else, you got to decide whether it be you want to become a better person for you and your family, you want to become a better person for God, you want to become a better person for your workplace. Like, you have to really decide what it is that's going to allow you to get to that next level. And we get so stuck because we don't know how to make the decision, the proper decision, whether if you make the wrong decision. There's always a positive to that. You just have to know how to identify and be able to, dish that out and say, all right, this is it, and I'm moving on.
I think that's a phenomenal analogy of the village definitely has all that going on.
Right.
And we get torn, I always said, between evil and good. The devil and God are fighting these battles, right? And you have to decide which way to go. And that's the problem sometimes in the village, because sometimes, let's be honest, that evil side is the fun side, is that side that you like most people enjoy, because that looks cool. That's the modern hip hop, the society, Hollywood type things. That looks cool. but doesn't mean it's right. It doesn't mean it's getting us to the point of where we need to be better people. You know, we need to be it. The positive side, why it might be a little more difficult sometimes, and it might not be quite as so-called fun, that's the side we need to go to grow. That's the growing process. And I think, you know, you specifically, you know, you're a great mentor to a lot of people because you've gone through a lot of these things. You've been bounced on the one side hard, and you had to bounce yourself all the way back over. Not easy, because they didn't want to let go over here. They want to hold on to you pretty good, and you had to rip yourself out to get over to this side. And you've done that. And I give you mad props. And I tell every single soul about that. You know what I mean? As much as a knucklehead as you were, you know, when you were in high school and college, the total transformation process is huge. So anybody who says that people can't change, that's a lie. If you want to change, you'll change. And Rodney's a prime example of that. But that's what I think we need to start focusing on. We need to start focusing on as men. We need to start helping men understand that this positive side is great. That's where the greatness lies. It's the greatness in each one of us, that God endowed each one of us to have this greatness, these gifts that he gave us, each one unique. But this is where it is. It's lying right here, but we have to work at it. It's not going to be handed to us. And we're too much in a society right now that everybody wants the quick fix, the McDonald's, the fast food. It doesn't work like that, people. It takes time. It takes work. It takes a lot of work. Hard work, especially when you fail over here, takes a hell of a lot harder work than there. And that's what we're trying to get the kids to do. You're here, we can get you here much easier than if you fall over here. And we don't want you. That's why you need to contact us, reach out to us. Let us help you. Let us help you go. And if you're an adult, let us help you understand how to help with your kids. We're not trying to tell you how to raise your kids. That's not our job. Okay. But we are trying to get people to understand that there is a basis that we should all have. And that respect should go a long way. And when we're taking men and how we should have men do certain things. And if you're some of your kids, your sons are not listening to you, there could be a sounding board for us. You know what I mean? We can listen and help understand, because it's an outside voice now. Just like I said, you know, with Coach here, you know, I might say one thing, he says the same exact thing in a different way, but they listen to him. Why? Because it's a different voice. It's a different voice coming from a different voice. And I think that's what we need to start doing more. So, Coach, I appreciate you being on. I always become more enlightened. I always learn something, and you always bring a different perspective. Even though we might agree, it's a different perspective of how things are, how we grew up, how we do things. And I think that's unique, because I think we're all different, but we should all have the same common goal. Our goal should always be to use the gifts that God gave us to the fullest of our potential, to the fullest, the max. We do that, society will take care of itself.
Right.
The problem is we're not doing that. We're failing at that. And once we do, that daddy's on duty, like I said, I agree. It's an awesome thing. But we need to get to the root problem. And it's the responsibility and the accountability of that father to take care of that and make sure that stuff doesn't happen. That's a lack of respect somewhere along the line, a lack of discipline that needs to be fixed. So, Coach, I appreciate you. You guys want to find out more information on us, the Real Man series, listen to our old podcast, go back, check them out. We have tons of things. Well, I'll be putting out a couple of our roundtables that Coach and I have been on, where we had 4 or 5 other people on, sometimes even up to 10. And we discuss all different type of topics on different things that are coming up. And I have a couple big announcements coming out very soon that Coach and I are working on, as well as, you know, some other people that we're going to be doing. It's time to empower the men to do the job that they need to do. And women, I think, are really screaming out for real men to be there, to take care of them. You know what I mean? To help provide for them, to help with them. You know what I mean? Go along this journey of life, you know, and be that co-equal person that I think is missing right now. So any last words, Coach?
I just thank you, Coach, for having me. It's always a pleasure. To everybody out there, quick one for you. The road to success won't be easy, but anything worth fighting for never is. And I hold that close to my heart to say this. How do you know if the grass is greener on the other side if you're afraid to take the risk to jump over the fence? I've been playing the fence my whole life, and I took the risk. To jump over, and I must say, the grass is greener, and it starts with this up here. Thank you so much, Coach.
I agree, man. I still have that hanging up on that poster that you gave me a couple years ago, probably 5, 6 years ago. That's the same quote, buddy. So I have it hanging up, man, in the gym. All
Yes,
right.
sir.
So guys, make sure you guys continue to follow us, Coach Ramsey. We can always reach out to us. We're more than happy to help you guys out any which way we can. We don't say we have the answers, but maybe we can help you find the answers in a much
Absolutely.
easier path. So guys, have yourself a blessed day. God bless you. Take care. Remember, we always got to remain unsolved.